Do you think body count matters?
I think body count matters because as long as you're on the same page with the other person, but if the other person that believes body count does matter and they have such a high body count and they want somebody who has like under 5, I think that's just double standards. And I personally, I do want somebody that has a lower body count, and because I wouldn't like shame or hate somebody for having a high body count. Like, you do what you have to do. It's your body, your choice, but that's just my personal, like, what I believe and what I want.
What's the maximum body count for your future husband that you'd be okay with?
As long as, I think once it hits the double digits, it's when it's like...
That's when he's ran through?
Yeah.
Okay.
Men can't really be ran through.
Elaborate.
Please
elaborate.
Please elaborate.
Yeah, what do you mean? How can a man not
straight
be
men can't be ran through.
Fair point.
That's a great point.
No,
That's
so
another conversation.
True.
So I do think men who have a promiscuous past, to what Chase was saying before about how it has an impact on both men and women in terms of your ability to pair bond with a partner. If a guy has slept with 200 women, it is going to have some impact on your ability to pair bond, but it's not going to be, my take on this, and I think there might have even been some studies on this, it's not going to have as big of an impact on, if a man is promiscuous, it's not going to have as big of an impact as it will have on if a woman is promiscuous.
What kind of an impact are you talking about, though?
Is that men release less oxytocin than women do when they sleep with someone, like the pair bonding chemical in your brain?
So you're saying if men have a higher body count, they're not, like, when women sleep with more people, they're more kind of connected to those people?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. And there's this concept that I think Chase very eloquently articulated a few podcasts ago. And I mean, it's kind of a nerdy term to use, but there's this concept of imprinting or alpha widow. And the more men you've slept with, eventually you're going to sleep with a top G, a fucking really
Straight up
top tier guy.
Legend.
Because here's the thing, men will sleep down. So the trouble women get in is that you can secure sex from a guy who's very high status, who's above you in terms of attractiveness. He's not going to commit to you, but he will sleep with you. But when that happens, you've now that is your framework for future men. So if you're able to sleep with a certain tier of men, let's say, then the men that are actually on your equivalent level, let's just say, you're not going to be attracted to them. So what would otherwise be your looks equivalent, your attractiveness equivalent, your socioeconomic equivalent, even if it's equal, you're no longer going to view that person as a good candidate because you've what's the term? You've tasted the better life, let's say.
Yeah, I know a lot of chicks, like, they were with like some amazing dude at one point in time. He broke her heart. After the fact, they get new relationships. They can never stop thinking about that one guy that got away. Many such cases. That's a problem. Happens.
It's a thing.
Ari's looking at me like, I don't know. I've never met that guy, so I'm not sure about that.
I don't know. Once you sleep with a certain tier of guy, maybe he has some status, maybe he's just incredibly good looking, maybe he's insanely good in bed. All your future partners, you are going to compare to that guy.
Yup.
And you were shooting outside of your league, but like
you guys specifically.
Yeah. No,
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
But so the more partners a woman has had, the more likely that she's been with a guy who's just so high tier. Because men can't really sleep with a girl outside of their league. Like, it happens, but
it's very rare.
It's pretty rare. Like,
I think in Santa Barbara it's pretty common. I see a lot of questionable dudes getting with pretty average.
I mean, they might be.
Women.
So men can make themselves attractive in other ways. They can make themselves attractive through finances, through status. So there's something to be said for charisma too. So there are other means with which men can make themselves attractive, but
I want to know
thing I wanted to
go
come
ahead.
off of that is
Sure.
just like how men date down. Men can date down, but like
Oh yeah.
like we honestly as men, like we don't really care like what your status is as a woman. Like you
Mm-hmm.
could have any career just as long as like you're respectful and like pretty. You know, I'm not gonna ask you how much you make or I guess what your status is. I think guys care a lot less about that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, Drake will date a baddie who works at Chick-fil-A. And he's a multi-millionaire, one of the highest,
Exactly.
super high status. So that's a good point.
Yeah, it is a good point. But I mean, because I've heard that before, and as soon as as soon as the first time I've heard that, I was just like, wow, that's really true. Because I've never really thought about.
I've actually never heard that before.
I never really thought of like my partner's status, but I know girls care about the status of their partner a lot more than guys.
Yeah. Oh,
For me personally, granted I'm 22, so like the people I've dated are around the same age, so like don't have a lot of like work experience. As long as you're goal oriented and you are like ambitious, that's what matters for me. Like you might not have a job right now, but like you're like, this is what I want to do, whether it makes a little money or a lot. I think that's way more attractive than like having a lot of cash or something. But yeah.
I think that's reasonable too.
Yeah.
Because that's a signal that he's probably going to go places, be able to take care of you well.
Well, I just think it's like a good like, I don't like even for me personally, like you want even like your friends, you know, you want them to be doing something like trying to make their life more meaningful, not necessarily getting the most money out of something, but just like to have a passion in life, I think is attractive.
Men need a mission.
Sure.
They
Exactly.
need a mission and a purpose. And men who don't have a mission or a purpose are often rudderless, just getting blown around by the waves of life, in my opinion. Not to get too poetic on you, Ari.